we'll do now a brief description of energy healing for 3 minutes of silence, followed by the prayer of gratitude, followed by the review of yesterday, which I really, like you guys, I was up at 4 a.m. this morning thinking about that. So I really have just, some clarification to make. Then really needing to get into the details of the issues that are so challenging to our world, that regardless of what side of the political spectrum anybody stands on, those issues are seen as real issues. We can all work together to help create some balance and wholeness and healing so that the bigger issues, the really scary issues, are handled. Okay. First, we handle them from the level of consciousness. Then at the material level, things get better. And that's energy healing. This is the brief description of what is energy healing. Is that energy healing is a process whereby we support changes in both the field of experience and perception and also the body. So the body, the physical body, and also like the field of perception and experience inside the experiencer. Okay, the experiencer and the physical body work together to create a condition that supports the fastest possible evolution. And the fastest possible evolution equals unfoldment of your pure potential, unfoldment of your potential as a human being. So evolution is taking us toward the unfoldment of our potential as human beings, our full potential, which is way bigger than what's considered normal in this world, the way our world has been functioning for ages upon ages. And I would say not everywhere, because most tribal cultures have traditions of people who are living more at their full potential, and legends and stories pretty much everywhere, even in the West. There are these conceptions of myths, sometimes we call them, of how people can live at a higher level of capability and functioning and that potential. So energy healing is essentially leading us in that direction. And the reason the body falls ill is because whatever is the next area, the next part of you that is ready to rise up and embrace or embody your potential, it starts to call you. It calls you, and pain. We experience sometimes pain because that part of the body's like, hey, I'm ready to change. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to move into my next phase. And so energy healing is a process of bringing together the consciousness and the body, because the body is really just condensed consciousness. Really, the physical form is consciousness made dense by folding on itself so many times that it becomes like you can touch it. So we're working with consciousness and the physiology to support a graceful transformation into your pure potential. And when the pain or suffering or illness is seen in terms of its role in helping guide life forward, then the amount of time that you have to spend with the suffering lessens. That's the review of energy healing. Let's have some luscious silence. So in the silence, I'll just ask you to close the eyes. And after about 3 minutes, you don't have to mind the time because I'm going to watch the time for everybody. And after about 3 minutes, although I messed up yesterday and we went for 5 minutes, woo! But anyway, it was luscious. But anyway, so today we'll do 3 minutes, aim for 3 minutes of silence. And in the silence, it just allows all of us to start today's session and today's healing process from the source of creation. We close the eyes, and just the act of closing the eyes settles the awareness down a little bit. For those of you who are used to kind of just relaxing into the source of creation when you close your eyes, then, may you enjoy that. And for those of you who aren't used to doing that, may you just enjoy a little bit of quiet time, because quiet time is good time. We start to learn how to, for those of you who aren't practiced, Okay. You start to learn how to control whether you're focusing your attention out or whether you're focusing your attention in, because being able to move like fluidly, intentionally, I'm focusing my attention out, I'm focusing my attention in. This is good. This is a good skill to have. It creates flexibility, and it also, you will see, ultimately will help to stabilize the nervous system and the way you work with your awareness to produce specific effects in the material field of creation. Okay, so now we're ready for 3 minutes of silence. I will put myself on mute. All right, let's close our eyes. All right. Let's take a few moments before slowly opening the eyes. Thank you to the source of creation for being all of us and all of this universe, and for providing that eternal tradition of wisdom, that eternal connection between the unmanifest, unbounded, absolute field of pure being and the entire manifestation of its intention. Thank you for our webinar. May this webinar provide real tools for working together to uphold the highest good for our world. May we uncover the key to healing our world, especially right now. We have a concern for the Western world, and that includes the Americas, it includes Europe and Australia, and the areas where the division is taking place, the areas where the danger of political instability has the potential to give rise to total destruction. It's a bit of a concern. There's a concern right there. That's one on the list of many. But may we make the movements at this time as a collective, as a healing collective that supports such a graceful navigation through the transformation that's taking place in the developed world, that the whole world remains safe. The whole world is set on a path not only to survive this transformation, but to thrive and to blossom forward into such a state of heaven on earth that all people in all countries are deeply, purely blessed, that to be able to live their full potential, to be able to have the resources they need to evolve beautifully and gracefully and comfortably. Everyone on earth, everyone. Thank you all for being with me for this wild ride. I am so grateful for your support. I was so worried about this topic, but after yesterday, I feel more confident, but I still feel as if I didn't really get down into the core of it. So today we're going to the core. Guys, thanks for being with me. Thank you all so much. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water. Then we're going to do the review of yesterday. So yesterday kind of started out just trying to define the issue that we're all occupying the same earth, but obviously there is a rift that has occurred. And I think that that's pretty obvious. It doesn't matter what side of the rift you're on, that both sides agree that a crack has formed in the fabric of our culture. And it's having a kind of a corrupting effect on the culture as a whole, and it's leading the world into a direction that is not healthy. So it's not healthy for us. It's not healthy for Mother Earth. I would like to read already. I promised you guys I'd start off with questions. I'm also going to do the review of yesterday and get to that one long question and so forth. But I want to start with this question. If we view Earth as the body of Gaia, it stands to reason that everything which lies on its surface, including us, are part of her ecosystem, her microbiome or holobiome. It seems to me that Mother Earth is suffering from a severe case of dysbiosis and akin to systemic candida overgrowth, in that the darker side of nature seems to be kind of essential for contrast in the realm of duality, right? Because like everything comes from the source of creation, right? The good and the bad both come, and they come to support or to help drive the evolutionary engine. But it's taken over. The dark side is taken over, and it's running the show for a few centuries, perhaps for millennia. And that depends on, which theories you follow, because some people are following theories that say, oh, there have been sort of dark players on the global field for long, long times, and other people it was more recent and unfortunate. Anyway, I won't go too far into that, but yes. And so what healing, and there are others people that are just saying, well, it just is sort of evolved spontaneously out of the way the thing is structured. What healing can we do for Mother Earth to bring her hollow biome back into balance so that, and that's like a holograph. He's writing it like the word holograph, sort of, right? Like her biome back into balance so that the good bugs are happily running the show and the candida is firmly back in its place. So I would like to add to this one of the great gifts that came to me over the last couple of weeks. And I think the person who sent me the video of the latest work of Dr. Michael Levine is, I don't think he's with us today, but Dr. Michael Levine has taken the work that was done decades ago in the field of epigenetics, like so many steps farther now. And Tom, I think we probably should include that video from Levine in the follow-ups because it's really, really good stuff, guys. And basically what he's saying is that the electromagnetic field of the body acts as the liaison or the interface to a large degree between consciousness and the physiology. And I would tend to, like, I agree with him. And the reason is, and you guys, I've been saying this for ages, is that our feelings impact the electromagnetic field of the body. And we know that from so many angles, right? We know that the heart sets up an electromagnetic field, and the beating of the heart, because of its actual beating, it sets up this electromagnetic field that's 60 times more powerful than any electromagnetic field set up by any other organs of the body. And the beating of the heart directly responds to our feelings. Like, we know this because when you're happy, your heart beats like this. And when you're frightened, your heart beats like this, right? And when you're angry, your heart beats like this, right? Like, we know. So, but it doesn't, that's at kind of like a gross level, right? That's at the level of the organs and the systems. But also what Levine is pointing out is that this is also happening at the cellular and subcellular level of the body. And that's why we've, in past webinars, and so we've done a lot of work on the epigenome, which is the subcellular structure that sits around the DNA. And informs the DNA of each cell how to show up. The electromagnetic field, I have to say one more thing about it, then we'll go in a little deeper, is also impacted or influenced by the gravitational pull of the planets, right? Because the gravitational pull of the planets is constantly, think of the moon, when it's like full moon, or when it's like new moon, or the geomagnetic storms that come off of the sun. And like, for those of you who are a little more sensitive to electromagnetism, like those events are energetic events that we are all experiencing together. Because if two planets out there get real close to each other, they're going to create like this sort of dual gravitational field because they're too big, like say two big heavy planets like Saturn and Jupiter or something like that. They get really close to each other. Then you've got like this sort of weight. It's like extra weighted on the side of the 360-degree plane where Saturn and Jupiter are. And that's going to affect all of us, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And as I said, some people are more aware of it than others. And I've been talking to a friend who's in Poland, and she was saying that it's now been found that some research that she was reading, and I need to go deeper into it, but I'm subscribed to the Substack of the researcher who's doing this, but that there are, it has a little bit to do with the array of enzymes in the body, that some people with certain types of enzymes are going to necessarily be more sensitive to electromagnetism than others. So that's very interesting. But the way the electromagnetism shows up, thank you, Dr. Levine, is that it penetrates through the openings in the cell walls, all kinds of like food particles like proteins, but also hormones. And, the walls of the cells are receptors, right? And they receive, nutrients come in to nourish the cell, but also um, uh, neuropeptides and other sorts of neurochemicals like pheromones, and so will connect on the outside of the cells that also inform the cell of what's going on. And this electromagnetic field is governed by our feelings, you guys, by our feelings. So that means that we have some autonomy over the way our body responds to environmental cues. Because there are all these environmental cues. 16 people could go to the same restaurant and eat the same food, but all 16 bodies will respond differently to that food. Some people walk out feeling great, right? Some people walk out feeling sick. You never know. You never know. And it's because we have some autonomy over the way we sort through all the materials that are coming in. And Mother Earth does too. And I think she's so big. I do feel that she has tricks up her sleeve that we have yet to see. We have yet to see. So there's a part of me when I clue in or check in with Mother Earth, I know how ancient. I mean, we know she's ancient. Mother Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago. And she's been through all kinds of periods and cycles in her life, and many cycles that human life would not be able to survive in those cycles at all. There's a lot. There's a lot that she can do. There's a lot of wisdom in the earth. And a lot of that wisdom is orchestrated by the devatas, or the subtle energy intelligences of the earth. But I need to take this again in a little bit another direction, which is, yesterday I talked about how the richas, which are the impulses of pure being that rise up from the source of creation, how these richas are received by our bodies. And one of the things that we're doing in energy healing is we are working with the physical form and the consciousness together, like the two strokes of the two feet driving you forward, right? The two strokes of evolution, you could say. We're working with these in order to create a condition in the physiology so that all the feelings that we experience and all the input that comes from the environment, and that includes material things like food or EMFs or anything else that comes from the environment, but it also includes what comes from the subtle environment, right? So that means like gravitational pulls of the planets, we experience them more subtly, but also the richas that come from the source of creation, so that we are working with everything that is in the environment in such a way that it's being no piece is left outside the reach of evolution. Every single part of it is used for evolution. Every single part. I wrote down a word. I have to remember what that word was. Social cohesion, that word. Okay. So the actions are for the sake. To do that, okay, so the action of receiving and accepting all the information that's coming in. And that includes all the information about everything that's not working in our society. And I've got this big spreadsheet, and that includes, I got it from AI, and it includes AI as a potential threat, but lots of other things, lots and lots of other things. Biodiversity loss, that's a big one. Human rights violations, oof. Corruption, mental health issues. And under mental health issues, I included terrorism and drug abuse as well. Climate change and sustainable development. And under that, I included natural resources, pollution, clean air, natural disasters, world population, including energy resources, global hunger. And according to AI, the problem is that population's growing, but then it just depends on which information you look at, because in most countries in the world, the population is shrinking. Almost all of them. Isn't that right, Tom?
It's a mixed bag.
It's a mixed bag.
Population continued to increase for a few decades.
I see. So yeah. Anyway, the indicators for the which is essentially the birth rate falling in so many countries. So many countries. The birth rate has fallen down to critical levels that it will not be possible for the people of that country to reestablish their numbers. It would be very difficult unless people go into like having super big families again. But we'll see. We'll see about that for the population. But yeah, education. So they're well defining the list gives us a nice definition of what the dysbiosis looks like and what its symptoms look like at the surface. But the ability to cultivate a physiology that is an instrument for the radiance of the richas, right? The impulses that come from the source of creation, being able to radiate out through the instrument without overwhelming the instrument. That's the key. That's the key. And that's the key to energy healing. And that's also the key to our contributions, both individually and collectively, to the narrative that's going on right now. Because the division is because on both sides, has to be a deeper truth. There absolutely is a deeper unifying truth. There absolutely is. And when we go deeper, what we're going to end up seeing is that there's some truth on both sides, and there's also some non-truth on both sides. And it comes down to each person's ability to be very discerning and figure out which parts are the real truth and which are the non-truths. And so that everybody starts to come onto the same page. Because the divisions that are occurring in the fabric of our culture at this time are inevitably they're happening still somewhat under the surface, but inevitably these are going to show up as events and circumstances and things that impact life. I mentioned the possibility yesterday of the total destruction of the energy grids in the countries. And there are multiple ways that could happen. Super computer viruses is just one of them. And the supercomputer viruses already exist, you guys. They're already out there kind of roaming through the internet. And they're designed in such a way that when they find their target, then they activate. And so it's not even so much a matter of if as more of a matter of when. But how severe that is and how it impacts life on Earth has to do with how we handle it now. So we're looking at this fissure that's occurred, that's been created, that's here, present with us, that's present in the more on the level of consciousness of our world. And how do we mend it? How do we heal it? How do we knit it back together? When a bone breaks, we ask the devatas of the body, the intelligence of the body that heals bones, of which humans have plenty of that level of intelligence. We bring our awareness to that particular devata value. And we say to the devata, I love you, I adore you, I give you my attention and my love. And with my attention and my love comes the soma produced by the body physically. And we've talked more about soma. We can put in another link to that for those who are not familiar with that concept. But the soma comes in and it feeds those devatas of the body, those levels of healing intelligence within the body, very subtle expressions of consciousness that are essentially collections of laws of nature. Basically, they're working according to natural law to mend or heal or knit back together the bones. And we've got broken bones in society, need to be knitted back together. So collectively, at the collective level, they're also devatas. And of course, our beautiful earth, our Mother Gaia is full of those types of healing intelligence. I know global warming is a concern, but there's a part of me that's not so. Anyway, an event occurred. Let's just say an event occurred about 5, 6 years ago, where the research, there were a lot of scientists and researchers that were looking at the trends of global warming, and like it was looking bad, you guys, like really bad. And I was so concerned that we had some experts come over to our house at one point, and we gathered a group of people, and the experts presented all of this scientific evidence. And according to them, it was going to be like we had maybe 1 year, okay, until both of the ice caps melted, and it was all going to be over. But that summer, Kilauea blew in Hawaii, and the blow of Kilauea was so big. And then also, I think right around that time or just after, there was a big volcano blowing in Iceland. And these two volcanoes, which wasn't much for Mother Gaia to do, that wasn't much for her to do. They just cooled the whole atmosphere down. They cooled it down. So she has tricks up her sleeve, you guys. As far as things like global warming, I feel that if we are meant to survive, which I truly believe that we are meant not only to survive, but to thrive, that the intelligence that resides within the earth is also here, actively engaged in supporting the same agenda that we have. And that agenda is to help build a world, a planet, where the divine is proud to reside, where the source of creation is happily flowing its riches, the impulses of creative intelligence into this world in such a way that all beings on earth are able to evolve gracefully, comfortably, and gracefully, and fulfill their goals. Each soul that comes to life on this earth is able to fulfill its goal in that lifetime. That's how we turn the dysbiosis into healthy product. Did he put the name of it there? Good bugs. We turn us into good bugs. Right now, what's happening is there's a little, we could say riches, impulses of intelligence from the source of creation, making themselves present and known in our collective to support the relationship between love, soma, and bliss. In the gut, especially. Bliss in the gut. The bliss. Source of creation is an ocean of bliss. It's an ocean of Ananda. Ananda is the Vedic term for bliss. There's a saying of Ananda, all these forms are created, and through Ananda they are sustained, and unto Ananda they return. And this is the truth. This is the big, deeper underlying truth that both sides on either side of the fissure can agree upon. This is a deeper truth. Of bliss they are created, of bliss they are sustained, and unto bliss they return. And the energy frequency and the energy structure of bliss, speaking to the electromagnetic field of the body, inspiring the cells of your body, of our bodies, to use the electromagnetic field around them, use the materials in the environment, in the plasma, to drive the highest narrative forward, to drive the narrative of the unfoldment of pure potential forward, evolution forward. The bliss and the soma flow like in abundance. They flow in abundance. And I'm looking at the different physiologies in our group because it's that electromagnetic spectrum that's highly responsive, right, to the feelings. These feelings are useful as long as we are also witnessing them. We are seeing them, so we are experiencing them, but we are also the experiencer of the feelings, yes? Both. And the experiencer remains somewhat untouched. The experiencer just enjoys the process and looks at the mechanics and says, oh, this is what I need to do to create bliss in my body. This is how bliss is created. Awareness dives deep to the ocean of bliss, to the ocean of Ananda, and derives the essence of that, I would say, that mixture of experiences that translate into bliss in the body. So the body can enjoy being in the bliss. And in that bliss, choices are made by the cells of what nutrients to take in and which ones to reject. Even if your body has a chemical imbalance in it, this can be amended because the cells have a choice of which chemicals to keep and which ones to reject. Discernment increasing at the cellular level and subcellular level. Discernment is a feature or quality of divinity. Divinity starts like the richas. Remember, the richas come out, they're bubbling out from the source of creation. And when they first come out, and this is a little bit from yesterday, when they first come out, they come out in these like pure essential forms. And discernment is one of them. And I've talked about them before. In the last set of webinars, I also talked about them. The fundamentals of Dharma are in there, right? Truth, compassion, purity, and austerity, as well as many others, grace and mercy and innocence and, all these, faith even, just like the essential components. These are like, you could think of them as facets on the diamond of the divine, that the divine in like the simple values of divinity as they rise up. These are qualities that are specific, but they are never, ever separated from divine source. So they rise into creation. Like you could take truth, for example, truth. Truth is really true. And it rises up into the creation, and yet it remains anchored to wholeness always. And so then what happens is these simpler forms start forming together in little clusters, and they make up laws of nature, specific laws of nature that do specific things. And the example I gave yesterday was Dharma, because Dharma is comprised of truth, compassion, purity, and austerity, essentially. And these four simple values, or we could say simple facets of divine expression, start to work together to create a structure that helps to sustain the creation. That's what Dharma does. It sustains. The legs that sustain the creation. They're all ways, and to combine them, you just have to intend to combine them. You feel, you put your attention, put truth and love together. Put truth and mercy together. You put truth and mercy together, you get a combination that can penetrate into very dark areas of human, what do they call that? I'm getting at my master list here. Oh, there it is. Human rights violations. Into the dark areas of human rights violations. We're just letting that happen. We're just putting truth and love together, along with decisiveness, And I would say a little dose of appropriately applied anger. Sometimes the combinations include some of the darker feelings too. Those also come from the source of creation, and they are also necessary. This shift is taking place deep down in the gap between the unmanifest and manifest field of creation, and it's directly targeting human rights violations. Dr. Jonathan Campbell put out a really good video this week on that topic because one of the major acronym organizations on Earth put out, chose to put out a statement that they recognized human rights violations, and it included statistics. Old statistics, some of them from like 2019 or something, like not even current statistics, but it's all they had, evidently, or else they chose not to give the current statistics. Who knows? I'm just bantering along as the movements in the subtle field are doing what they need to do, which is it's a big, deep, almost gut-wrenching shift. Feels almost like a gut-wrenching shift of energy that is specifically targeting human rights violations. And mental health is caught up in that because mental health is absolutely a player when it comes to human rights violations, including terrorism and other things like that. I'm not mentioning the worst of it. You guys know what's going on out there. You're smart. That movement deep, that gut-wrenching movement deep in the gap between the absolute and the relative is finally starting to settle down now and kind of come to rest in the ocean of bliss. Come to rest in the ocean of bliss. And I'm seeing it flopping in waves, like flop, 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 like that. And with each flop, there is a release. There is a relief. There are individuals who are living lives of horrible suffering who are being released. And as it falls into, as that movement, that transformative movement falls into the ocean of being, it multiplies out to infinity. It multiplies as many times as it needs to multiply in order to catch everyone, in order to touch all the victims of human rights violations. And when I say out to infinity, because the healing has to go back in time as well, often the people who violate the rights of others were themselves violated in their own youth. Right? How many millennia does it go back? You don't even know. It brings us to, I know I'm supposed to be answering more questions. And what's the time? Okay, good. We're good. We still have half an hour. That's good. I'm trying to be really efficient, you guys. So much to cover. Yesterday, I want to come to this big question, this very big question that came in. I mentioned these three darker values that can, under the right circumstances, be tools to support the fundamental ability of our society to become more cohesive. They support social cohesion. And these, but I realized when I woke up at 4:00 this morning, I thought, oh gosh, there's part of that didn't quite come out, like the second shoe didn't drop, right? And so we need to drop that second shoe. So these values of guilt, shame, and fear, guilt, shame, and fear are regulatory qualities that help people function in a way that keeps them aligned with natural law. When guilt, shame, and fear are are applied, or when they're handled, when they're in their proper place, you could say, when they're in their proper place and everybody in the society agrees what that place is, and it's sort of well defined, then these three values, you almost never even need to get to the second two values. If guilt, just the guilt alone, is properly placed, it is a self-referral tool for keeping oneself on the path of evolution in a graceful manner. The problem lies in a very old patterning in the field of humanity, which is when the guilt is felt, also, I'm not good enough is activated. And I'm not good enough is a way that separation from wholeness is experienced. The way a person experiences them as separate from the source of creation, their source, you're never separated from your source of creation. That's literally not possible. It's literally not possible, even after you're dead. You can say, well, the fact that you're alive is proof that you're connected to the source of creation, because the source of creation provides the very life force that flows through the body. So if you're breathing, and your heart is beating, then you are connected to the source of creation. But that's just not the way people experience it. What we experience is that some part of the physiology feels insufficient to fully embody that flow, that infinite flow of intelligence and creativity coming from the source of creation, right? The source of creation is just, it's an infinite source. It's an infinite source. And it's rising up and rising up and rising up, and it's bubbling through us, all of us, constantly. And then if there's some part of the body that's like, wow, when all this light comes through, I can't take it. It's too much. It feels like too much. It means that part of the physiology, we're looking at the electromagnetic part, that part of the physiology, the electromagnetic field right there is getting like, it short circuits. It short circuits the electron. I have to drink some water. Hang on. That's better. That part of the physiology starts to cry, and it's the part that will fall ill, or yeah, that's the part that falls ill. So the falling ill drives awareness to the ill area, and the driving of awareness brings the soma, and it activates the devatas, and it starts the healing process going. And as the healing process gets to work on that part of the physiology, wherever it is, that part of the physiology undergoes some refinement. It aims, when you know, and you know that the aim is evolution. The aim is for that blueprint to have so much strength and flexibility in it that infinite amounts of pure being can come through that part of the physiology, and that part of the physiology just laps it up, just laps it up. That's the aim. That's the intention. But when I'm not good enough is here, I'm not good enough. What happens is it causes the electromagnetic field of the body, instead of responding in a positive manner to the situation, to resist and get kind of warped out of shape and dysfunctional. And it is the feeling of separation from wholeness that is at the very seed core of the illness in the first place. So guilt is a very, very important and valuable tool that we use to help keep ourselves aligned with natural law, to help support. Each person is doing the best they can to support behavior that aligns with the rest of society. And we're going into the gap between the mechanism that allows you to recognize when you've made a mistake or when there's some potential for growth. Okay. Because before the body falls ill, the potential for growth is already there going, hey, wait a minute. I could be better here. I could be more of an expression of divine being in this one spot. But if we ignore that, then eventually that part of the body falls ill. So there are more movements taking place, more movement of consciousness in the gap. And it's kind of creating a little bit of a separation between the function of guilt in its optimized form, in its full potential, which is to be a warning signal for you and for me and for everyone that of how to stay on the path before I fall ill, before I get overwhelmed, before I make a mistake that's so big that then I have to pay some bigger price. A lot of love is coming up, and I feel as if that love is being generated deep down in the body, all the way down, especially for the men in this group, all the way down at the first chakra, all the way down at on the pelvic floor, is this just deep generation of sweetness and love and power and the identification with the divine, right from the pelvic floor, right from the reproductive organs, eliminative organs. The unconditional love, which forms the very connection between ourselves and the source of creation, is lively. Unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, complete recognition of the presence of one's being as divine. It's a big healing. It's a big healing. You guys, it's a big healing for sexuality. That's interesting. I guess that kind of goes in line with those human rights violations, doesn't it? Big healing, because we become the filter through which the divine flows and supports, it creates a pathway that allows, like, acts as a guide for the world, for everyone to follow a way to get through from a very bad place to a good place, a place where behaviors support social cohesion. I'm using that word. That support a world where everyone lives their full potential and helps everyone else live their full potential. And that ties back to the Michael Levine video that I refer to, which I'm so happy to send you. It's a video, I'll let you see it because it's just it's golden. It's just golden. But essentially what he talks about is how the electromagnetic spectrum of cells, generally they follow, the cells in our body follow certain social rules. And they know that they are part of a bigger form. And they know that their survival depends on the well-being of the larger form, as well as their individual environment. Like, say they're all liver cells or something, like they know, like, yes, I have to function like a liver cell, like my fellow liver cell, my family fellow liver cells here. But they also know that they're part of the bigger environment of the whole body. And what happens is very, very clearly now, very clearly defined, like they have tables, they have indexes. The scientists who are working on this thing, Levine started out going into biology as a means to create quantum computing. So he's kind of like a computer scientist, biologist, something like that, but ended up discovering specifically the electromagnetic index or signature of a cell that is cancerous, has decided that it's not part of the group, that it lives on its own and it's out for its own gains, And it only cares about performing action that serves its individual function. So it's kind of like hungry and just sucking up whatever resources in the environment it can possibly suck up. And Levine has figured out, and he's doing this in little animals. He shows pictures of little animals. They'll go in and they'll change the electromagnetic spectrum of a little cell or a little bunch of cells in a little animal that tell those cells, you no longer belong to this animal, you're rogue cells. You're on your own. So you just eat this animal alive if that's what you want to do. And then they start doing that. And then they go back in with a little zapper device, right? It's just a little electromagnetic. They put in a particular specific electromagnetic frequency that tells the cells, no, wait a minute, guys, you're part of the group here. You actually belong to this little animal's, gut or whatever. And they they restructure the electromagnetic frequency in those cells, and the cells stop being cancer cells. They join the group. They're like, oh, wait a minute. I can have my cake and eat it too. I can live a happy cell life without damaging my world. Okay. So this information now already exists. This is research that's being done right now, and it's happening. And so you can betcha it's not being done on people yet, but you can betcha not some point in the future, it's going to be done on people. That's just the way it's going to happen. But you guys, we already have the key right now, because we're controlling the electromagnetic spectrum of the cells in our body with our feelings, right? You've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 100 times. It's the anchor to wholeness that guides every feeling, because you're going to feel every feeling along the whole entire spectrum of human experience in your lifetime. That is a given. Sometimes you're going to be happy. Sometimes you're going to be sad. Sometimes you're going to grieve, right? Sometimes there's going to be bliss everywhere. Anchored to wholeness. It's the anchor to wholeness that causes that feeling to drive the evolutionary narrative forward in the body. That's the other leg of the shoe. That's the other shoe that needed to fall. Because yesterday we talked about guilt, shame, and fear. But what we didn't really tie it back to the energy healing process. I didn't feel like I had. That's why I woke up at 4 a.m. It's like, I did not tie that back to the energy healing process sufficiently. So I feel more satisfied now that that's tied back. Thank you for bearing with me, all that. Could this webinar also help personal issues? Yes. Yes. In fact, I think this, okay. So, we know that the feelings that you have, all of them, the dark ones and the light ones, can drive the evolutionary narrative in the body forward. So if there are personal issues, then the principle is we take that element, that our element of darkness, or that quality of feeling separate from the source of creation, and also any guilt or shame that might go along with that. And we drop the whole thing into the ocean of bliss. And how do we drop something like that into something you can't see? The principle is very simple. If it's in the awareness, then the awareness moves from focusing on guilt, shame, fear, I'm not good enough, I'm disposable, nobody really likes me, whatever. So that's in the awareness. And then the awareness transitions inward. Remember, we did that at the beginning. That was a little exercise at the beginning, inward to the source of creation. And by doing that, the source of creation shines the perspective of pure knowledge and totality upon the experience. Your awareness is source material. The source of creation lives through your awareness. It lives in you as your awareness. So whatever you focus your attention on gets washed in a bath of pure being. And that wash cleanses everything. And it especially cleanses out the beliefs and the patterns of behavior, the habits that go with those beliefs of being insufficient, being not good enough. Right. My friend's analysis here was so brilliant. But when I read through his question, the man who asked this more longer question, what I realized is the whole question circulates around what we would call a standard of moral behavior. The whole thing just circulates around that. The standard for moral behavior must always be dictated by the divine because it's going to change. It's not even a set static standard. I mean, yeah, he knows that. He pointed that this man who wrote this question is absolutely brilliant. And he realizes that it's not even a static thing. But it's a necessary thing in order to maintain social cohesion. It's a very big download coming in about the standard of moral behavior. Because that standard of moral behavior is one of the things that's vastly different about the two sides, the fissure. It's quite different. In some ways, the two sides agree with each other a lot. In some ways, they disagree with each other. And standard of moral behavior is one of those areas. So what we need to get to is just the truth. Because one side might be being too prudish and the other side might be being too degenerate. But somewhere there is that central point. And as I mentioned, it can change depending on the nature of the challenges that any given group of people are facing. Right? What's that saying? All's fair in love and war? Something like that, right? So this is coming, and it is beautiful. It is beautiful. I am watching this richa arrive from the source of creation. Glorious. It's glorious. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'm understanding what I'm understanding from it. And I'm just understanding this in a very visceral way. So I don't know how much I'll be able to describe it to you guys, but I'm understanding how we strategize our behavior to promote and to create specific effects within the collective. I'm understanding that. That's one of the things Dorothy's getting, because it's coming through this filter. You guys, and thank you, all of you, because as this richa is arriving, I'm getting a bigger, more complete view of it because all of you are filtering it through your nervous systems, through your senses of perception. And when you do that, we each are like facets on the diamond of that richa. We are each seeing it from our own unique perspective and understanding it. But there's definitely an element here of strategizing, of how do we choose the thoughts, words, and actions that we take in such a way as to coordinate with everyone else on earth who is seeing at least as deep a level of truth as we are. How do we coordinate our thoughts, words, and actions with all of, so that we're moving like one force, like one field, like one expression of intention? And how do we do that within ourselves too? How do the cells in our body do that so that none of them go rogue and become cancer cells? That would be a nice thing to do. It's the same mechanic. It's the same principle. It's the same download. The same download. I didn't know I was going to do healing for cancer in this webinar. How about that? But that we were going to do. We were going to do it. I'm the voice. I'm the mouth. But you guys are the brilliance. You are the light of the divine shining and blessing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But it's the same principle. It's the same law of nature. It's the same law of nature that guides individuals to work together in a cohesive manner. And that means looking beyond the surface of race or gender, and working soul to soul with everyone, allowing, it means producing the enzymes or lack thereof, depending. And I haven't read the guy's paper yet, so that's probably going to be another webinar coming up. But producing an enzymatic spectrum within the body that allows each of us to become more aware of what's happening at an electromagnetic level of our world without becoming overwhelmed by what's happening at the electromagnetic level of the world, and being able to use that, our ability to read our own electromagnetic fields, but also to be able to coordinate our electromagnetic field with the people around us, depending on what's going on with them, and being able to read directly at the electromagnetic level of reality of what's going on with people. So you don't have to ask, you just know. There's this guy on YouTube, he knows. Crazy dude, man. He's a geographer, and he knows anything. You can take a picture out of your airplane window, and he will tell you exactly where that thing is that you were looking at, but he'll also tell you which flight you were on, going from where to where, and which seat you were sitting in the airplane. I don't know how he does it. Some kind of a sit-hoff. That guy. I'm looking through. Can we please do a healing? Oh, and I also want to make sure I'm up here too. One more challenging issue that needs support: organizing huge waves of immigrants with thousands of children disappearing. Oh God, I know. Yeah. So that was, I think, thank you for that. That question came in at 1:30, and I think we kind of covered it when we talked about the human rights violations. So I appreciate the lady who mentioned this. She's one of our Europeans who's with us, mentioned about the children. Lahaina still hasn't found 2,000 children, are still missing in Lahaina. I'm following that story. I'm also following the story about what's going across the border, the southern border of the US, and the children there. No, we did that healing. We did that, and the flopping of the wave, and each wave was to help each one of them, and we managed to touch each one of them. So what we're doing is we're structuring on the level of consciousness the way out. We're structuring their liberation, the liberation of all the people that I think I was saying Dr. Campbell just released a video about that this week. Tom, we can put Dr. Campbell's video in our follow-up if we want. And I really like him because he only gets his information from the most respectable resources. He only goes to places that are, considered at the highest level from all views, from all possible views, from both sides of the rift. Anyway, but it has all the statistics in there. And I think he said it was about 50,000 people. No, excuse me, 50 million people worldwide, I think. But anyway, I have to go back and look. But that's one of the biggest issues, I think. I don't know. It's one of the ones that touches me the most deeply. include a video about human rights violations with a report. Yes, I can do that. Thank you. We'll do that. That's the same one. So beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. Although we're putting most of our attention on the Western populations, which I think is completely appropriate, the joy of these healings is that they equally benefit the rest of the world too, not to mention Mother Earth. Yes, absolutely. Because the Western nations wield so much power and have so much control over literally everything on Earth that the greatest potential for total Earth destruction is sitting in the hands of the Western nations. And so we darned well better get our act together. We better get this together. I just read this next question. An electromagnetic zap of love. Knowledge is very generous. Maharishi said that. The underlying quality of cancer is the imbalance of fear, yes, dominating, and fear of separation. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we catch it early. Okay, please do a healing to balance and look. Yes, we can do it. To balance emotions and fortify the nervous system. This is such a sort of a key point because the nervous system, dang, I haven't gotten to the AI question yet either, but I think is the AI question. So we just have 2 questions left. The AI question, which I'm very happy to share a few thoughts on, and a healing for the emotions and the nervous system. Now, a lot of the healings that we've done today are really, really going to help the nervous system and the emotions a lot, particularly that last one, for that last download, for increasing the ability to sensitively understand and know how the electromagnetic field of one's own body is functioning. But an integration between the emotions and the electromagnetic field allows for a more nuanced read on the electromagnetic array of human energy, of the energy in the human body. So you can tell if there's a particular like flow of electromagnetic energy, you can tell if that's related to your position in with regards to Saturn, for example. Or if there's a geomagnetic storm that's getting ready to bubble up. Or if you happen to be out in nature taking a walk and you're coming close to a ley line. Or if you're with somebody, if you're out in public and the electromagnetic field of somebody in your environment is out of line with the needs of the collective at that moment, the needs of the group at that moment. And you can adapt, you can adjust your own magnetic field to help move them, just like the planets do. You know, the planets are moving, they'll move like this, like you're here, right? And the planet moves like this, and it kind of causes you to move like that. And so that autonomous control, that deep, detailed control over one's own electromagnetic reality puts you in a position to radiate the energy that will help others realign with their highest potential in each moment. The people around you, even they don't have to be physically around you. They can just be in your awareness. More healing is being done for human rights violations. On that note, because everybody has to get healed. One of the points that came up in the Dr. not to be a spoiler on the Dr. Campbell video, but it's really a good one, is that oh no, sorry, it's a different video, so I can be a spoiler. That when the children are rescued, I've been listening to obviously the stories of the rescuers. And when the children are rescued, they go into rehabilitation. And usually 2 out of 3 of them through good rehabilitation, can go on to lead a normal life. The other one often goes on to commit the same crimes as an adult on other children. We need a better statistic, you guys. It needs to be better than that. That's good. That's good that 2 out of 3 children who are saved from a life of, I won't even say hell, from a life of hell, go on to lead normal lives, fairly normal. But 1 in 3 is not good, considering the numbers. So that shift. And what that is it's the healing that we're going through now, and this ability to work directly with your own electromagnetic field in order to support the well-being of the people around you is also being given to those who are working in that area of rehabilitation, to help all the children, even the ones who've been through the worst of the worst. And I don't think I'm going to share that video with you guys. If you really want to see, you can email me separately, but it was very heavy. And I just don't think that, I think it's very, very heavy. You may or may not want to go down that rabbit hole unless you're feeling your nervous system feels really, really stable and really strong. And that's why I go down those rabbit holes. Because when I go down that rabbit hole, I go in with all of my resources at 100%. And whatever comes up, then the antidote comes. So it's a healing process. We just do it as a healing exercise. I'd like to hear your thoughts on AI. And is it going to have more of a negative or a positive effect? And how to position oneself to deal with that change? I know we're just a couple minutes over, but just in brief, AI is not going away. So I think right now we may as well just face the fact that we are inevitably going to have to adapt to AI, because it's only going to continue to be here henceforth. So there is that. And I think that in the short term, it may be, the transition could be a little bit more difficult. I'm sure certain jobs are going to go away because AI is going to take over certain jobs. But in the long run, I think we're going to learn to work with it. And, at this point, the thing about AI is that AI doesn't have any moral compass at all whatsoever. So that ability, those abilities that are born of the prefrontal cortex of the human brain, are not possessed by AI. So that puts us at a massive advantage over AI. And I really think that, it's very much like anything else in this world, like guns or something. It depends a lot on whose hands it's in. Yes. And my dear said, it sounds like we need a healing for that fail forward of the abused becoming abusers. It's so old and it's so nasty. Yeah. Anyway, we did a little bit that healing toward the end here. And, as we're moving forward, these are big issues. We stepped up to the plate with some big issues in this weekend's webinar. So, I think that it's always nice when we can take any one of these big issues and then go in deep, deep, deep and explore that even further. And so, I'm sure that we'll do more webinars on various topics. But I just want you to know, all of you to know that I have the deepest respect for each of you. And it is completely regardless of whether you are on one side or the other side of the division. Oh, wait, one more person. Yes. Yeah. The broader view is that we're all really longing to get to the deeper truth. And everybody wants to be on the side of truth. Everybody wants that. So what can happen is that both sides can evolve so that they become closer, 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 closer to the truth. And as we get closer, closer, we knit that division back together. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Those are the laws of nature, just like the ones that knit the bones back together, right? The ones that knit our society and our culture back together are the ones that support everyone's ability to find the most essential levels of truth within themselves and to use their discernment, right? Because obviously, and AI is a part of that example, there's a lot of information out there, and figuring out which of it is real and which of it is not real is quite the challenge these days, and only going to get worse with AI. My son was saying this is probably the last election we'll ever have that's actually like real. because you can make anybody look like anything and say anything. You can I've got so many hours of me on the internet. AI can take me and make me say anything. There's no way to tell what the truth is anymore. But for now, we're still here with it. And we know that a lot of that has to do with each individual person. So that's why we're going through these horrible growing pains right now. That's my take. The horrible growing pains are here to help us grow in our ability to go closer, closer. Let the culture war, let the division in society inspire you and drive you to ever get ever closer, closer, closer to the truth. Because if we do that from both sides, we're going to come to a point of union. We are. And that level of functionality is going to allow us to deal with a world that has AI and all kinds of other stuff too. Maybe it will allow us to undo all of the nuclear weapons on this earth. I would love that. One time, Maharishi said every nuclear weapon on the earth is like a little pinprick in the surface of Mother's body. So may they all be dismantled at some point or another, sooner rather than later. Thank you, guys. I love you all. I have such respect for each of you. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful you were with me. Thank you. Thank you. And I really look forward to seeing you again soon. Tom and I take off tomorrow for 5 weeks in going to see our granddaughter and cannot wait. so wishing you all a beautiful fall, and I'll see you again in October. The next one will be from Arizona. We'll be coming to you from Arizona. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. I love you. I love you. Bye-bye.